Hello and welcome to Tracy Momi Reads. I am back again with another book review. Today, I am going to be talking about the book The Perfect Divorce by Geneva Rose. The Perfect Divorce. So that title might sound familiar. The cover might look familiar. The author's name might be familiar because Geneva Rose also wrote the book, The Perfect Marriage. And that is one of the most viewed and most commented on videos on my channel. The review I did of The Perfect Marriage, I think the first year that the channel started, so it was a few years ago. And I still get people commenting on that particular video about that particular book, even though now we have a sequel, because that's what The Perfect Divorce is. It is the sequel to The Perfect Marriage. And it's crazy because when that book ended, which, if you go back and look at the video or you even look at the comments or whatever, quite a few of us had an issue with the ending, okay? And I'll try not to spoil the first book, in case you still have not read it. But a lot of us had problems with that ending and how everything went down when it was all said and done. But I don't know if people were really expecting a sequel. I mean, let's say with Gone Girl, for example, by Gillian Flynn. It has one of those endings where the main female character, she was a whole sociopath, a bit of a psychopath as well. And in the end, she just kind of got away with everything that she had done, basically. And even in that case, it's okay, she got away with it. It was cleverly done. It kept you on the edge of your seat. And there doesn't need to be a sequel, right? I felt the same way kind of about The Perfect Marriage. Even though I didn't like the ending, the way that everything landed and how people got away with what they got away with. I was fine with the way that it ended in respects to that is what the author chose to do. I didn't feel like she left us hanging. It wasn't one of those things where you're like, well, what happened to so-and-so? Or where's the other person? And, it was just one of those things where a lot of us felt it was a bit much for the person to have done all the stuff that they did. But never anything where you felt like you didn't get some sort of resolution. It's just maybe not the resolution you wanted. So I don't know. I felt surprised when I first, seen the posts and information about her having a sequel, to The Perfect Marriage. So let's get into this one. Okay, so just as a refresher, I will tell you the premise of the first book, The Perfect Marriage, and how it transitions to The Perfect Divorce. So in the first book, we had a married couple, Adam and Sarah, right? Adam was a writer and he, it was fledgling. I mean, I don't know if he ever had any books be hugely successful. He was basically living off of his wife, Sarah, who was, a high-powered attorney. So Adam cheated on Sarah, and the woman he cheated with ended up dead, right? And there was this whole big thing, this trial case, investigation, the police got involved in everything, and Sarah represented him in court. So I think I lied. I don't think I'm going to be able to talk about the transition to this new book without giving away some spoilers for the first book. So if you have not read The Perfect Marriage and it is in your plans to do so, goodbye. You should probably skip the rest of this video. Okay? You've been warned. Okay. So as we know, like I said, Sarah represented Adam and he was found guilty. And then, we learned that she basically orchestrated everything. She was responsible for everything and she had set him up, right? Okay, so when we transition into the new book, the first part of the book, I don't know if it's a prologue or if it's just a transcript, but there had been like a podcast or documentary type thing where we got to hear from Adam, and it appeared that he didn't know that she had set him up. But I thought at the end of the first book he did. You know, like I said, it's been so long, but it was like he, you know, that's still my wife, yada, yada, yada. And 7 years had passed at the time that we got that transcript. But we go on to learn, as you read the book, that Adam actually has, like, he got the death penalty and it was carried out. So that's all we hear from Adam, as far as like actually hearing from him directly, was that first part of the book. Because he's dead for the rest of the book. Okay. And that might be a slight spoiler, but it sets the tone for everything else that happens, because now Sarah has gotten away with what she did, right? There shouldn't be anything coming back from that, or back on her for that, right? She has gotten remarried to a guy named Bob, and they have a daughter, and I think their daughter is her name is Summer, and she's 9 years old. So when the actual book starts, after we get past that that little piece with Adam, Sarah and Bob are going through like mediation because she has filed for divorce, because guess what? Bob cheated on her. Deja freaking vu, right? Because that's how the other book opened. Like Adam had, you know, cheated on her. So her second husband has cheated on her and she wants out. So, fortunate for him that she's trying to do it the right way, though, like by going through, you know, attorneys and doing a divorce, as opposed to just like killing the mistress and ruining his life, you know, putting him in jail. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have a daughter, and her daughter, you know, she loves her father. So I think she's trying to be do things a little bit different this go round. But anyway, the book, the thing, it was just crazy because I feel like the author repeated a lot of the same elements from the first book. Again, because, you know, Bob cheated on Sarah, just like Adam had cheated on Sarah. In the first book, Adam's mistress ends up dead. Well, in this book, Bob, the woman that Bob slept with, because it turns out it was just like a one-night stand, but the woman he slept with, she goes missing. You know, so I'm like, okay, this is, I mean, I get it. Like when you're an author and people, like, you write something that people just really resonate with, or it just becomes this mega hit or this big thing. I think that's why a lot of authors do sequels kind of after the fact. Like you have some people where they know that, okay, I'm writing this book about this guy and he slays dragons. Well, they probably already know in their head that at the end of that first book, there's going to be a cliffhanger. I'm going to drag this out 3 more books. This is going to be a whole series. This story can't be told in one setting. But I feel like some of these authors, when they get like a surprise hit, or they, you know, it's received very well, they play off of that and they're like, okay, now I'm going to do a sequel. You know, when maybe it's not even necessary, you know, because the thing about that is if you feel like you had, you know, provided a resolution, whether people liked it or not, what else is there to say? So now you've got to create a whole new story to make us even care about these people again. And, you know, nobody cared about Sarah when it was all said and done, you know. And so as a result, I feel like she repeated a lot of the same stuff from the first book as far as like events. It was just kind of recycled, you know, it was recycled. And the police again start to question her. But I will say this, she left the law practice where she was, and now she kind of has a nonprofit that helps former incarcerated people like get back on their feet and all that kind of stuff. And they brought back the sheriff, Ryan Stevens, but he's no longer the sheriff. Somebody else is. And we're going through the whole process because they're looking for this woman that has gone missing, and they've tied it to Bob. And I don't know I remember reading a comment on my on the video that I did for The Perfect Marriage, and somebody had mentioned that they were mad because there was some mysterious person that Sarah had met with, and like the author never really disclosed who it was. And now I'm wondering if that was the thing that was either intentional, if it was just an afterthought, or what, because I don't remember that part. But it turns out the person that she met with was Bob, the man that she married, because Bob, he knows the truth about what happened with the whole thing with Adam. So he knows what happened, and he is trying to use that as leverage over Sarah to get her not to divorce him. But that does not work out well for him. I will just say this, okay? And remember the girl, so the mistress that died, her husband like pops up also in this book, but just by mention and things that we're just assuming he did or didn't do. Like we never hear from him directly or get his point of view. So as the police go through this case looking for this woman, something happens to Ryan Stevens, the first sheriff. Now there's, a second case they're looking at, and they're trying to see if it's all tied together. And you start to realize that, that Sarah, she's very calculating, almost too calculating, like she knows about things before they happen. It's like she's just so in tune with everything that's going on. Nobody can get anything over on her. There's a guy who comes through the program, where they do the rehabilitation of former incarcerated people that she ends up falling for and has a fling with. And he becomes an important part of the story. And when it's all said and done, Sarah, she's just Sarahing, okay? Sarah is gonna Sarah. She's doing a lot of the same stuff that she did in the first book without any type of consequences or repercussions. And while I found the book engaging because the author had provided so many different twists that you're trying to figure out, okay, so wait a minute, who is this person? How are they connected to that? And did she know about this? It's one of those things where you just keep reading because you want to know. So from that standpoint, she did an excellent job at keeping the reader engaged. However, I just really wanted to know what happened. That's the only reason I kept reading. I didn't have any sympathy, any feelings, any way about any of the characters. None of them were redeemable as far as I was concerned. I mean, the new sheriff, he was legitimate. He was actually trying to do the right thing and find out, get some answers and all that stuff. But, he was just doing his job. Nothing extraordinary, So I didn't care about any of the characters or the story after a while. I was just being nosy and wanted to know what happened. It's kind of like when people are telling you, a story or giving you some gossip about people that you don't even know. Like, you really aren't invested in those people. And at the end of the day, you really don't care about them because you don't know them. But your curiosity is there where you're like, well, what did her husband say when he went in there? And you don't even know who the husband is. You don't know the wife. It's not going to affect you if they stay together or break up. That's kind of how I felt about this book, The Perfect Divorce. I don't know that it added anything to the first book or made it, a better experience because the first book happened, she just kept doing a lot of the same things that she had done in the first book. And that was the thing that I did not like about it. I liked that it was engaging and twisty, but did not like that it was very similar in a lot of ways, all the way up until the end, to the first book. And maybe, I don't know if she's going to do a third book or not, because just the way that it ended with, we still have not actually seen or heard from Kelly, the girl who died in the first book, her husband, even though he was mentioned and he did some stuff. Like, is he going to pop back up? Like, what would be a great follow-up to this if she's planning on doing another book, because I feel like, you know, we're milking it now. We're kind of milking it. But if you're going to milk it, do it right. Close it out with a third book. And Kelly's husband needs to come for Sarah. And she needs to get her just desserts. That's what needs to happen if we're going to do something. We can't just keep letting Sarah get away with everything that she's doing, because she's running amok in this book just like she did in the first one. And, you know, I know that there were people who were saying that's kind of like the just desserts for Adam because of, you know, he cheated or whatever. But come on now, she that was too much, especially for somebody you act like you didn't even really care about or love that much anyway. You know, is it just your pride and your ego is that fragile that you feel like you have to do that much to get what you think is revenge or justice? I don't know. Yeah. Have Kelly's husband come after Sarah in a third book and let that be the final showdown where she gets what she deserves. And that's a book worth reading. This one, I mean, if you want to know what happens with Sarah, like what other diabolical things she's done, then yeah, by all means pick it up, because it'll be characters that you're familiar with, a story that you're very familiar with, and it's a way to pass time. But, you know, outside of that, I don't know. I don't know. The only reason I really talked about it on the channel is because, like I said, The Perfect Marriage is the most viewed and most commented on and most liked video on my channel. So I felt like I had to chime in about this sequel. Trigger warnings, there's a murder, you know, some of it's gruesome. There's obviously adultery going on, some cheating. But you know, the same kind of stuff that was in the first book, nothing too crazy. And my takeaway is, I don't know. I mean, I guess if I had a takeaway, it would be to like make sure that you always know what's going on, that you're the smartest person in the room if you want to keep getting away with things that you've done. And I don't know that that's a good message. But anyway, if you haven't read The Perfect Divorce, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you also feel like it was a bit of deja vu when you were reading it? Let me know. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure that you like this video and go ahead and take the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.